From Fox 8 Sports, this is the Overtime Podcast.
From the Gulf Coast studios in New Orleans, this is the Fox 8 Overtime Podcast. I'm your host, Sean Fazende, riding shotgun as he does each and every podcast. It's Andre Johnson.
Junior.
Do not forget the Junior. Very important. Remember the JR at the end of the name. Before we get into today's content, be sure to like, share, rate, review. If you're watching us on YouTube, do us a favor. Hit that subscribe button. Get the bell notification for when we drop that fire content. Also, hello, Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Glad you have found us here. Please stay here. There's a lot coming here on this beautiful network that we started, about a few months ago. We've been rolling. We were one of the original programming. We were one of the original shows and on the programming lineup here on this wonderful network. And we're glad to be here. And there's going to be a whole lot more coming as the year moves on here. All right, Andre. Happy Friday to everyone. Hope everyone had a good week. Interesting weather out in New Orleans today. I was outside earlier. It was getting a little workout outside. Felt a good little breeze coming through. I was like, all right, I'll take it. A little touch of fall. I'll take it this weekend. So I'll enjoy that. Also, Saints, Giants. We have the injury report. We have a lot of storylines. We have a lot of narratives. We have a lot of information, but we also, most important thing, we have a game to get to on Sunday, and the Saints have wrapped up preparations for that game, hoping to avoid 0-5 and instead get to 1-4 against a very beatable New York Giants team. But first things first, how you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. You know, it's been a fun week. You know, a lot of interesting things going on with the Saints. Kellen Moore talked today, but Kellen Moore is not the one in the title of this podcast. There's two other people who talked this week, and it was very interesting, you know, in what they said. Number one, Taysom Hill, who returned to practice this week, spoke today just about an hour, 2 hours ago from where we're taping this on Friday. In a few minutes later in this podcast, you'll hear from Taysom Hill in the locker room. But first, we got to talk about the quarterback.
We do.
Spencer Rattler. We've been talking about it since it's happened. I mean, he doesn't have a win in the NFL. 0-10 as a starter. One of the worst starts in the last 15 years for a quarterback. One of the worst losing streaks as a starting quarterback in Saints history. And Sean, he spoke on Wednesday, and it seemed like for the first time, all of this winless talk is finally starting to affect the young Saints quarterback.
Well, see, that's where I wanted to go with the big picture is basically how much has it impacted him? How much has it affected him? Has the winless streak impacted his play? So let me get into it with this. And this may be a little bit of a surprise to some because, you know, you and I are generally viewed as Rattler critics.
I don't know why.
I just feel like we're Rattler realists, and we've put his play into proper perspective. But let me go ahead and say this for the record. I actually think the way he's handled the losing streak might be the best thing he's done since he's been a starting quarterback. It's not easy. It's not easy. These guys are professionals. They put a lot into it. They have pride. They have work ethic. There's just so much that goes into week in and week out of a football game. And to not get the ultimate result, which is a win, that can really wear on you, man. Losing sucks. Losing absolutely sucks. You put so much into the work week. And this is not baseball where you play 162 games a year. This is not basketball where, all right, if you lose on Monday, you play again on Wednesday. I mean, you got to live with that week in and week out. And if, like last year when you didn't have any wins, a whole off season, all the training camp, quarterback competition, win the quarterback competition. But here we are as we enter October, still no wins on the football field as a starter. And look, losing, I'm sure if you've played sports, we all have, you're on a team that's on a losing streak, it can wear on you. And when you're a player that can't get over the hump, whether it's a slump or in this case, it's not really a slump, it's more of just the end result just hasn't worked out, that can really start to wear on you. That can really become a problem mentally if you're not able to properly compartmentalize that. And I got to give Rattler credit for this because I think this aspect of the operation, while the results have not come, I think he's properly compartmentalized where it hasn't necessarily leaked into his play on the field, or more importantly, his body language on the field. You haven't seen him jumping receivers. You haven't seen, you know, when this type of stuff happens from a losing perspective, it can really drain your energy, and it can really show up just in terms of you can really get a sense of players pressing. You can really get a sense that a player's trying to do too much. You can really get a sense that the players are really starting to feel the pressure with how he's interacting with his teammates. And I just haven't sensed that level of frustration. So I got to give him credit for that, because that's not always easy. And when you're a player used to winning, which I think before he got to New Orleans, he was a guy that was generally a winning quarterback at the collegiate level, certainly at the high school level, that can be hard. And the body language has been good. The body language has been good. I mean, and look, we've seen winning quarterbacks around the NFL that won a lot of games who have horrible body language right now, even after wins when something goes wrong. So I got to commend Spencer Rattler for that. So I don't think it's impacted his play on the field. I will say, though, I was at the press conference Wednesday. And look, as the weeks go on and the losses mount and the questions start to come, this was really the first week where I felt like it was the main topic of his press conference. Because it's going, and then from here on out, it's going to continue to be a topic until he's able to get that first win. So he wasn't like rude to us. He wasn't overly short with us. But he was asked quite a bit, about the losing streak, the winless streak. In fact, one reporter in particular really pressed him a few times. So I want to play a little bit of some of those responses that he had from those questions this week. Take a listen.
Yeah, you wish you already had one, but it's a team thing. It is what it is. You can't control it. It's in the past. We're focused on the future, so it'll come. We're working hard this week to get it this week, get it done for the team this week, so we can get a win on the board and hopefully start stacking them. I feel good. I feel like I'm not playing losing football, which is good. Areas to improve, of course, just like everybody else, but feel good. I want to keep climbing, keep getting better, and do even more. So, but I feel good. I feel like I'm not playing losing football, which is key, and just keep going out there, playing to win, playing tough, and getting the ball to our playmakers.
All right. So you listen to that. You're going to give your take in a second here. Again, I was there. Yep. I was present. The start of the press conference was fine. He knew the questions were coming. I thought he handled most of the questions fine. There's a question there, I'm not sure we're able to include it, where it was probably round 3 or 4 with another winless question, and it ended up being just a simple no to the answer, to the question. And that was really the first time I was like, okay, he's either A, he's just tired of frustration with the question today, or B, he's just tired of talking about it. It was probably a little bit of both. So I will say this. He's handled himself well on the football field. That was the first little crack, I think, with us. We'll see if that spills on the football field Sunday. You have a very winnable opponent. You have a very beatable opponent in the New York Giants. They're 1-3. They're starting a rookie quarterback, making his first road start of his career, his second start ever of his career. If you win, great. I can only imagine the relief that's going to be on his face. I can only imagine the excitement that's going to be on his face. But if you lose, I think this is the line. I think this is the line where, A, if it gets ugly in the game where you might see him start to press a little bit, or there could be some feisty interactions either with players, coaches, or perhaps with us after the game. Because I think if you dip to 0-11 as a starter, even though that crossed over 2 seasons, but more importantly, 0-5, that's a dangerous hole to be in as an NFL team. And even some very poor teams in the NFL right now are not going to be 0-5. So I think this is really the line right here. Does it impact his play, or has it impacted his play? It has not. The winless streak has not impacted his play. In fact, you could say he's improved from last year to this year. But I think ultimately, if he doesn't get a win this week, that narrative is going to blow up even more. And I think that could have ultimately be an issue if you're Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, the question being, is the winless streak affecting Rattler? It should be. I mean, Spencer Rattler's a competitor. Like you mentioned, in high school, he was a winner. In college, he won games, And now you get to the pros, the place you've dreamed of your whole life, and for one reason or another, you can't get the job done. You haven't been able to win. And that's not asking a whole lot to win one game. Last night, Mac Jones was on one leg.
Return to
on the
Mac.
road against the Los Angeles Rams. Sean McVay, one of the better teams in the NFL, without his tight end, without his receiver number 1, receiver number 2. I mean, on and on, the list goes on, all the excuses, and Mac Jones found a way to win that game, right? But with Rattler, it's always this, that, an excuse, and he knows what we know. In the NFL, you only get so much grace. You only get so much time.
She's a fifth-round pick. You probably got as many as you can get.
Exactly. And one thing I will say with Rattler, and it may not be the winless streak, but one thing I've noticed in his play, it seems like at times he is playing not to lose the job compared to last season. If you look at the Spencer Rattler from last season, yes, he was a little more erratic. Yes, he made more turnovers, but that's because he put himself in those positions. I mean, now I talked about the Saints being last in the NFL in yards per attempt. It's not that Spencer Rattler doesn't have the arm to throw the ball down the field.
And it's not like they're not dialing it up.
It's not like they're not calling the plays, but mentally it's almost like he's like, oh, I can't make a mistake because I got Tyler Shuck behind me. To where last year, Derek Carr was hurt. He wasn't coming in that game. It was very evident that Jake Haener wasn't going to take Spencer Rattler's spot. Spencer Rattler went out and he played free last year. He was rolling out of the pocket and making intermediate throws consistently. He was taking deep shots. They didn't connect more times than not, but he was taking them. The Spencer Rattler and the willingness to let it fly that we saw last season, I haven't seen that this season. And in a way, because of that, has he been more efficient? Yes. Has he turned the ball over? Yes. There's good and bad things that come with that. But also, you're not stretching the field. You're not making the defense guard 40 yards. They're guarding 10 because it's very rare that Spencer Rattler attempts a pass longer than 6-7 yards, So in that way, I think it is affecting his play because mentally, I think he's so worried about trying to, do all the right things to get his first win. And I don't want to lose my job to Tyler Shuck. And in that soundbite we played a minute ago, there was something he said, I don't feel like I'm playing losing football. He sounded like his fans. He sounded like the Rat Pack right there because just like the Rat Pack says, oh, it's not Spencer's fault that they're losing. Well, how about winning football? You're not playing losing football, but you have not played winning football. He has not made the plays when they've needed them to win a lot of those games. So the way I look at it, Spencer, this is the week. This is the week for Spencer Rattler. You are at home. You're playing a team that you were better than in the New York Giants. That team led by a rookie quarterback making his second start in the NFL. He's without his best offensive player, Malik Neighbors. He's out for the year. Their best defensive player, Dexter Lawrence, hasn't practiced all week.
Illness.
He may not play on Sunday. You're the betting favorites for the first time in who knows how long. Your last win over 300, not Spencer's last win, but the Saints' last win over 300 days ago against who? The New York Giants. You've got a top 10 rushing game in the NFL. Cesar Ruiz, who, everybody has been on Cesar Ruiz. He hasn't been having a great season. Now you're getting some young blood in there in Torricelli Simpkins. We'll see what he's able to do on that offensive line potentially. You've got emerging rookies on the defense. Quincy Riley's he got a lot of snaps last week. He's going to get more snaps this week. Jonas Sanker has been doing great since he's gotten into the lineup. And most importantly, you might have Taysom Hill back. I mean, you have every reason to win the game this week, and if he still can't get it done, I think at that point it's like, man, what are we doing?
Yeah, I like that perspective you have there because perhaps the winless streak has not impacted his mental state or maybe his actual, what's actually being done on the field, but maybe it's the fear of losing his job that's impacted the decisions he's making on the football field, which on the surface when you watch appear to be good football decisions, but it also does reek of at times, well, if I make a bad decision here, I'm going to lose my job, as opposed to not necessarily wins and losses, but do I keep my job or not? That's an interesting way to put it. And I think there has been shreds of that. I mean, there has been moments when you look and it's like, you didn't have to keep it there. You could have really let it fly. Or you checked it down a little soon. You might have had something developing a little further downfield. So I do think that's something. That's an interesting perspective that you have because it's like it's a duality, so to speak. It's, yes, they're losing games, but it's also, I might get benched. So which one is really impacting this play more? And to hear you say it almost sounds like the possibility of Tyler Shuck coming in could have a bigger impact than the actual wins and losses. So we'll see how that goes. In saying all that, I'm going to say it right here. I think this is the week. I think this is the week. We'll see the smile on his face. We'll see the smile on Kellen Moore's face. And I think the Saints get it done. I think they get the 1-4.
I've gone back and forth about predicting a win this week, and I'll tell you what, whether I predict a win this week will come down to one thing, or in this case, one man. And that's the guy we're going to hear from in one second.
Let's hear from him.
Taysom Hill.
I'm feeling good. Yeah, I'm feeling healthy, and I think it's always one of those things you don't know how you're going to feel in a month. But as of right now, I feel really good. I feel better than what I was expecting, frankly. But really encouraged with how my knee has handled the load this week.
What would you need to be able to do to know that you're ready to get into the game?
Look, I trust my knee. Like, my knee feels super stable. I think it comes down to you got to rip the Band-Aid off, so you're not going to know how it's going to respond to contact until you start to see contact, and that's a hard thing to imitate until you get out and do it. So I don't know that I need to see or feel anything else on my knee before I get to a game.
Jason, this probably is a dumb question, but 35 years old, major knee injury, long rehab process. Like, what keeps you going? What keeps you, wanting to do this every week and go through that all over again?
Yeah, I mean, it's a loaded question, and it's a hard one to appropriately answer, in a quick second like this. But I love playing football. Football has given me and my family some incredible experiences and given us incredible opportunities. And you realize that football is there's a shelf life to doing this. And had a lot of conversations with the organization this offseason and with Kellen and Mickey, and I wasn't ready to walk away, and they still had a vision for me here, and so I told them I was going to do everything I could to make sure I could help the team win.
Did you take some time to think about that, or you kind of knew pretty early in the offseason that you wanted to keep going?
I would say Mickey and Kellen both handled the situation very well, because it was one of those things where we had time, there was no decision that was forced upon me. I would say from the early stages of my rehab all the way back until after the injury, my mindset was I was going to rehab this as if I was going to play. So at the end of the day, I got two little guys, and we want to add to the family, and so I'm going to make sure that I'm healthy to be a dad to those little guys. So I was always motivated to get back to full health, whether I was playing football or not. And then I think mentally, as you get closer, then you start to have, more in-depth conversations.
Given the seriousness of the injury, what did they tell you about the outlook starting now? Like, did you know right up that you could get back to it?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there's not one injury that's the same, right? But after the surgery and having conversations with the surgeon and the therapists and everything else, there was question marks around 2025 for sure, and the timeline was not super encouraging, frankly, for me. But again, it was one of those things that we didn't have to make any decisions, early this off season. So it's just one of those things where you just put your head down, you go to work, and see what happens.
Was there ever a timeline that included trying to return during training camp, so you wouldn't have to miss the first 4 weeks, or was that pretty early on? Like, hey, let's aim for October.
Yeah, I think we had some conversations like that, and we had to evaluate, kind of a weekly type of thing. And then I think as you start to put together a roster, right, there's a lot of question marks as far as, what's this makeup going to be of a 53-man, and what's my availability look like. And so there was so many factors that went into that decision. We had all the conversations.
How about role? I know you were having conversations with Clint and took on a big role really early, but this is so opposite because it has to be. I mean, are you guys going to make that up as you go along, or do you think they have a pretty good idea of how you'll fit in?
I mean, there's so many variables given where we're at right now. So I think it's one of those, let's take it a day at a time, let's take it a week at a time, and see where this thing evolves. Obviously, I've had a number of conversations with Kellen, dating all the way back to February, March, when he first got the job and when he was going through this interview process. But it's a hard thing to define, and the reality is I've had 3 days of practice with his coaching staff, and they've had 3 days of practice with me, so I think everyone's still learning through this process, and I think it'll be one of those things that just evolves through time.
Has there been a benefit of being primarily in the quarterback room for meetings, learning the offense that way, and the guys of the quarterback?
Yeah, I think that's been really helpful. Obviously this is no-brainer, I guess, answer. But when you're in the quarterback room, you learn the entirety of the offense, and that's been really helpful for me. And then I think you fine-tune what you're going to be asked to do as far as techniques and various things like that with different position groups. And Kellen and Scott Linehan and Nuss and those guys have been really great about coaching the details of the little things that I'd be asked to do.
And that's Taysom Hill in the locker room today. And he had a lot of interesting things that he talked about, from, potentially his role in this offense, which we really don't know, with Kellen Moore taking over as the head coach and the play caller, even his future in the NFL. It seems like over the offseason, he did think about, do I want to keep rehabbing this and coming back and continuing to play, So just hearing Taysom talk like that, which is a rarity, it was very interesting.
Yeah, and Taysom is a guy, when you talk to him, he's very, I love Q&As with him because he takes the questions very seriously. He offers really insightful answers. You really get a feeling for how he's feeling about a certain situation. He has a way of explaining things to really, you understand where he's coming from, you understand what he's dealing with. And sometimes, I've always appreciated he's not Captain Generic. He's a guy he's a very unique player, and when you talk to him, he gives you unique answers, and he gives you realistic answers, and it's not like dumb football meathead answers. It's very, it's insightful answers. I thought there was a lot there. I thought the realistic possibility of it being it for him, I thought he was very open about that. I thought what his role could potentially be, how frankly he's only had 3 practices, he's not really sure yet, very real about that. But to me, the Saints have already won with this, because I thought the activation window would start. I didn't think there was a chance this week. I did not think there was a chance at all this week. So when I saw Taysom Hill questionable, I was like, whoa, my eyes got big. I was like, whoa. You talk about a boost. You talk about an energy lift. You talk about just injecting some life into a team that just is in desperate need of something to turn that corner. Because I don't know about you, but I kind of get the feeling if they get the first one, it's not going to be 4 more weeks before you get the next one. You know what I'm saying? I think
not with that schedule.
Yeah. So when he talked today, I wasn't out there today, but I thought it was interesting the way he put it all in perspective. Does he play? I guess there's a strong possibility of being questionable. What's his role? How much does he play? Is it a limited snap count? Stay tuned. But I will say this. When it happened last year, and in the fact that I saw Mike Triplett report something like it was basically ended up being 4 ligaments that he had to repair, and it's been a 10-month process. All the things I was hearing, I thought November at the earliest for Taysom Hill. So to me, to get that guy back at his age, with all the injuries he's had to deal with well before he got to the professional ranks, I think it's already a victory for the Saints. So whenever he gets on the field, I think the Saints will gravitate to that, and you will see the spark that he always seems to provide. So I'm just wondering if he is back on the field, how many games or how many weeks does it take for him to maybe knock off some of the rust and be ready to go? Because once he's ready to go and he's the Taysom of old, I guess, which could also be a question, I think the Saints could really lean into that for another much-needed weapon.
I would sit him this week if I were the Saints. I would sit him this week. I think, too, I touched on San Fran earlier and Mac Jones. The reason Mac Jones played on Thursday is because Brock Purdy, who came back to play last week, wasn't ready.
Clearly.
In that game, he got hurt and he wasn't good to go on Thursday. Taysom Hill, while he may have been, practicing with the quarterbacks and in the quarterback rooms, he is not protected by a quarterback. He plays a high-impact, high-contact brand of football.
And he's a physical guy.
And that's what you need. Whether he's blocking, whether he's going out there running routes over the middle, whether he's throwing himself in the midst of 20 bodies for a 4th and 1. Taysom Hill, I need him 100% because I don't need him playing at 75, and the next thing you know, he's out for another 4 weeks. So I would sit Taysom this week. I would wait till he's as close to 100% to go because that's a guy who can bring so much to this offense. You need him this season, but if you want him, you need him at 100%. And if Taysom doesn't play Sunday, I lean Giants. If Taysom plays Sunday, is able to get 10 touches, he's a guy who's made the most out of 10 touches in the past. I think that could swing the game the Saints' way, but a lot riding on whether Taysom plays or not to me.
It's interesting. I think, it's a valid point. It really is. It's a valid point. Is 80% Taysom worth it?
I don't think it is. I'd rather have 100%
90% Taysom worth it. I think you're getting closer at that point.
Maybe.
I just know what he brings to the table. So if he's able to go, I mean, that would really, really help the Saints just in their quest because Rattler, I think, only had him for 1 or 2 games in his starts last year. I don't think he had him for much longer last year, so he couldn't even lean on the Taysom factor when he was starting last year. So stay tuned. Should be a fun one on Sunday. I'll be there. You'll be there. We'll all be there. All right. For Andre Johnson Jr., I'm Sean Fazende. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys next time on Overtime.